Right now, major furniture retailers are paying millions of dollars every single year to ship thousands of massive steel containers across the Pacific Ocean.
Millions upon millions.
Right, but here's the wild part. If you were to crack open those containers, you would realize that a huge percentage of what they are actually paying to transport is, well, it's just empty air.
Yeah, literally just negative space.
It is one of the most absurdly inefficient supply chains on Earth. But today, we are looking at how one country figured out how to completely delete that empty air, and in the process, quietly built a $10 billion retail revolution.
It's a phenomenal shift to watch unfold, honestly.
Yeah.
We are moving away from this legacy model where companies essentially bankroll the transportation of nothing toward a highly optimized system. It completely changes how physical goods move around the world.
Which brings us to our focus for this deep dive. We are unpacking a really fascinating industry guide that recently came across our desks titled Flat Pack Furniture from Vietnam: How RTA Beats Inflation and Shipping Costs in 2026.
It's a great read.
It really is. And our mission today is to uncover how ready-to-assemble, or RTA furniture, transformed from a budget brand quirk, the classic slightly wobbly college dorm bookshelf.
Oh yeah, we've all been there.
Exactly. How it went from that into a massive $10.47 billion global powerhouse. And specifically, we're going to explore the mechanics behind why Vietnam has become the undisputed king of this structural retail shift. Okay, let's unpack this.
So to appreciate how Vietnam managed to take over this sector, we have to grasp the sheer scale of the global flat pack market right now.
It's huge.
Massive. I mean, this is no longer a niche category reserved for a few massive Swedish retailers. In 2025 alone, the global ready-to-assemble market shipped 850 million separate units.
850 million.
Yeah, and out of those 850 million, factories in Vietnam manufactured 298 million of them.
Wait, so over 250 million pieces of furniture originated from a single country in 1 year.
Exactly.
That represents roughly, 35% of the entire global volume?
Right around there, yeah, which is just an astonishing concentration of manufacturing power. But the reason all this volume is shifting to Vietnam isn't some big mystery. It comes down to the raw, brutal economics of moving large objects across an ocean.
The shipping costs.
Exactly. The guide breaks this down with a perfect, highly specific example: a mid-range wooden dining chair.
Okay.
Imagine you are a mid-sized furniture retailer in the United States. You decide you want to import a fully assembled dining chair from China. The base cost to manufacture that chair is roughly $28.
Which, that sounds reasonable enough for a quality chair.
It does, but then you have to put it on a cargo ship. And because that chair is fully assembled, it takes up a significant footprint of physical cubic space inside a shipping container.
Right, because you can't really stack another chair directly inside of it.
No, you can't. So the ocean freight alone is going to cost you $45 per unit.
Wow.
Yeah. You are paying nearly double the manufacturing costs just to move the thing.
Just to move it.
Right. And then your shipment hits the port and you get slapped with a 25% import tariff. So by the time that single assembled chair lands in your warehouse, your true cost is $94.
That is wild. You started with a $28 piece of wood, and you were up to $94 just to get it in the door.
Just to get it in the door.
And when you look closely at that $45 shipping fee, you realize that shipping fully assembled furniture is essentially paying a massive premium to ship expensive boxes of empty space.
Yes.
You are literally funding the transit of the air between the chair legs.
It's madness. So if shipping fully assembled chairs is slowly bankrupting retailers, what's the alternative? This is where Vietnam's flat pack model completely flips the math.
Okay, let's hear the Vietnam map.
So the base cost of their flat pack dining chair is slightly cheaper, coming in at $22. But the true leverage happens in the shipping container. Because it's flat packed, that same chair undergoes an 80% volume reduction.
80%.
80%. You can stack 5 flat pack boxes in the exact same footprint as one assembled chair.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Which instantly plummets that ocean freight cost from $45 down to just $14 per unit.
Exactly.
And if you add in a slightly lower baseline tariff of 20%, your total landed cost for the exact same chair, functionally speaking anyway, drops to $48.
Yep. You go from a $94 landed cost down to a $48 landed cost.
That is a staggering 49% structural advantage.
It really is. And the first instinct a lot of people have when they hear that number is to assume the retailer just pockets that extra $46 as pure, unadulterated profit.
Right. They assume it's just corporate greed padding the bottom line.
Naturally.
Mm-hmm.
But in a highly competitive e-commerce market, a structural advantage of this magnitude is utilized much more aggressively. They use that 49% to totally rewrite their retail economics and just box out their competitors.
They use it as a strategic moat.
Exactly.
First, I mean, they can immediately price their furniture 20 to 30% below legacy competitors who are still importing assembled pieces.
And magically, they're still pulling in a better profit margin.
Right. And then they take the rest of those savings and pour it into aggressive customer acquisition. They just buy up all the digital ad space that their competitors simply cannot afford to match.
Yeah, and beyond the marketing, having that much buffer in your profit margin is an incredible defensive mechanism.
How so?
Well, it allows these retailers to absorb sudden supply chain shocks, fuel surcharges, or shipping rate spikes without having to panic.
Oh, right. So they don't have to initiate emergency markdowns or drastically raise prices on the consumer.
Exactly. It fundamentally changes the DNA of the business from fragile to highly resilient.
Okay, I have to push back here because I know exactly what you are thinking as you listen to this.
Okay, lay it on you.
A 49% cost advantage is completely useless if the product is absolute garbage.
Fair point.
And historically, flat pack furniture has a deeply ingrained reputation for frustration. We've all been there.
The infamous Allen wrench.
Yes. You drag a heavy box into your living room, the instructions look like a complex geometry test, the holes don't quite line up.
You push too hard.
Exactly, the particle board splinters. And you end up in a state of pure customer rage. So, how are modern retailers avoiding massive return rates? If this market is moving nearly 300 million units out of Vietnam alone, the quality has to be fundamentally different than what we remember from 10 years ago.
You're touching on the exact barrier that held the flatpack industry back for decades, which is assembly consistency.
Right.
If a wooden chairback is miscut on a factory floor by just 2 millimeters, the dowel won't fit into the corresponding hole.
And if it doesn't fit, the customer forces it, ruins the piece, returns the entire box, and leaves a scathing one-star review.
Yep. And your beautiful 49% profit margin evaporates instantly. Returns in heavy goods are a logistical nightmare.
So what changed on the factory floor?
Well, Vietnam deployed its true differentiator. A lot of people assume the advantage of sourcing from Southeast Asia is simply lower labor costs.
Right, that's the stereotype.
But it's actually about highly advanced manufacturing technology. Specifically, we're talking about CNC manufacturing taking over the factory floors.
CNC meaning computer numerical control.
Exactly, which entirely eliminates human error from the equation. Instead of the line of workers hand-cutting components with traditional saws and routers...
Which naturally leads to microscopic variations, right?
Exactly. Vietnam's top manufacturers use highly advanced, computer-guided routers. These robotic machines cut every single wood piece to astonishingly precise tolerances of plus or minus 0.5 millimeters.
Wow, half a millimeter.
Yeah. And they also pre-drill complex pocket holes at exact specifications.
Meaning the end consumer often doesn't even need to fumble with Allen wrenches or complex hardware anymore. The pieces literally just slot into place perfectly, flush against each other.
Every single time. The business impact of that precision cannot be overstated. By switching to completely CNC-cut components, these major manufacturers are reducing customer return rates by an incredible 60 to 80% compared to hand-cut components.
That is wild. A 60 to 80% drop in returns completely changes the math of the entire business.
It really does.
It means the furniture actually works the way it is advertised.
And it goes beyond just the precision of the cut. It extends to the raw materials themselves. Vietnam's major ready-to-assemble manufacturers hold serious, globally recognized certifications.
Well, like what?
We're talking FSC, the Forest Stewardship Council certification, ensuring sustainable wood sourcing.
Right, right.
They boast CARB2 compliance, which is a massive hurdle that meets strict California air quality standards regarding formaldehyde emissions in composite wood.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah. And they secure KCMA certifications for rigorous kitchen cabinet durability standards. These are not optional vanity badges. These are absolute non-negotiables if you want to sell your products to premium North American retailers.
Okay, so Vietnam has effectively managed to combine rock-bottom shipping economics with certified precision manufactured quality.
That's the secret sauce.
But here's where it gets really interesting, though. The guide highlights a wild logistical reality that connects this CNC precision right back to the shipping costs we discussed earlier.
Oh, the box sizing.
Yes. Because these machine-cut parts are so perfectly consistent in size and shape, the manufacturers can treat the packaging process like a highly complex geometric puzzle.
They can pack it incredibly tight.
Exactly. A typical flat-pack dining set from Vietnam fits into a 1.2 cubic meter cardboard box. But competitors operating in other countries who don't possess that same cutting precision, they have to leave a little extra room in the box for error and extra padding.
Right, to prevent damage in transit.
Yeah, so their boxes end up being 1.6 to 1.8 cubic meters.
And because Vietnam's parts lock together inside the cardboard box with absolutely zero negative space, they shrink the overall footprint of the final package.
It's brilliant.
That seemingly tiny reduction in box size saves the retailer another 30 to 40% in freight costs per unit, simply because they can cram more boxes into the exact same shipping container.
So it's a cascading effect.
Totally.
The robotic precision improves the customer experience, which drastically lowers the return rate, while simultaneously shrinking the physical box, which lowers the ocean freight cost, which increases the margin even further.
It's a perfect loop. So having established that the furniture is incredibly cheap to ship across the ocean, and the manufacturing ensures it is high quality and easy to assemble in the living room.
We have to look at how this changes the fundamental operations of modern e-commerce retailers.
Yes, exactly. It completely alters how a massive company like Wayfair or Article, or even a fast-growing startup, actually manages their business.
Which brings us to the concept of capital efficiency.
Right.
Imagine you're a traditional furniture retailer. In the old days, you had to place a massive bulk order for fully assembled couches or dining tables. You had to write a massive check, stick all that bulky inventory in a giant central warehouse, and basically wait 45 to 60 days before you even made your first sale to a customer.
Your money was essentially trapped, locked up in wooden chairs gathering dust. The guide offers a brilliant breakdown of how this efficiency works in practice. Sticking with our dining chair example.
The $28 one, right?
Yeah. Let's say you want to sell 500 chairs. In the traditional model, you buy those 500 chairs outright. That is $11,000 of your operating capital, heavily invested and immobilized.
Okay.
And because of the slow, clunky supply chain, that $11,000 is tied up for roughly 2 months before you see a single dollar of return.
But with the modern flat-pack dropship model, the financial burden is entirely lifted.
Completely.
You only need to partner with a third-party logistics center to hold about 200 units on hand regionally. When a customer clicks buy on your website, it ships directly from that regional center to their door in 48 hours.
It's so fast.
Yeah, and you then replenish your stock from Vietnam every couple of weeks, based entirely on what is actually selling. Now, you only have $4,400 tied up in inventory at any given moment.
You just achieved a 60% reduction in your working capital requirement.
Which is huge for cash flow.
Massive. Taking a step back to view the broader retail landscape, it becomes incredibly obvious why major e-commerce giants have made ready-to-assemble their default go-to category.
It makes sense.
It is a masterclass in risk management. In traditional retail, buyers essentially have to gaze into a crystal ball and forecast consumer design trends 8 to 12 weeks in advance.
And if you guess wrong and order 500 assembled chairs in a color nobody wants, you are stuck with $11,000 worth of ugly inventory.
Right, that you ultimately have to sell at a steep loss just to physically clear out warehouse space for new items.
It's essentially agile software development, but applied to living room furniture.
I love that comparison.
Yeah, if you are an ambitious e-commerce brand, you can launch 50 unique product lines, 50 distinct styles of furniture with just $200,000 in inventory capital instead of needing $500,000 just to test the waters.
You can do a tiny 100-unit trial run of a wild, avant-garde neon green coffee table.
Right. And if it goes viral and sells out in a weekend, fantastic. Your supply chain allows you to quickly order more.
And if it completely flops, you aren't forced into bankruptcy. You are remaining incredibly agile, responding to exactly what consumers want in real time without betting the entire company on a single shipment.
This agility is exactly why the geography of where these flat-pack boxes physically land plays a massive role in how successful this dropship model actually is.
Oh, absolutely. Location is everything.
The guide breaks down 2 major distinct markets that are absolutely dominating this space right now: North America and Australia. And the structural strategies for how retailers approach each continent are vastly different.
Let's start by looking at North America.
Okay.
The U.S. imported over $12 billion worth of furniture in 2025, and flat pack makes up almost 40% of that massive pie.
That's almost half.
Yeah. Vietnam already holds a 28% market share of those U.S. imports, and that number is accelerating fast.
And a significant portion of that dominance comes down to international trade tariffs, right?
It does. Vietnam's flat pack furniture faces a base tariff of around 20%. Meanwhile, the exact same equivalent product coming out of China faces 25 to 35% tariffs.
So before the product even rolls off the assembly line, Vietnam has a 5 to 15% baseline cost advantage.
Exactly. But the real operational power in North America is the sophisticated dropship infrastructure that has been built out over the last few years.
The fulfillment hubs.
Right. Once those massive cargo containers arrive at the port of Los Angeles or Long Beach, they do not go to sit in one singular massive mega warehouse in the middle of the country.
Right, they had split up.
The individual boxes are cross-docked at the port and immediately distributed to regional fulfillment hubs heavily concentrated in California, Texas, and Georgia.
And because the physical inventory is pre-positioned closer to the end consumer, retailers can offer true domestic dropshipping with reliable 3 to 5 day delivery times across the entire continent.
It's seamless.
Which brings us to the second continent highlighted in the guide, Australia. The text actually refers to Australia as the overlooked gold mine for flat pack sourcing out of Vietnam.
It really is a gold mine.
And the reason for that title comes down to two mind-blowing geographical and political factors. The first is the ANZ-FTA Treaty, which is the Australia-New Zealand Free Trade Area.
That treaty is huge.
It is. Because of that specific economic agreement, 90% of Vietnamese furniture enters Australia completely duty-free. Absolutely zero tariffs.
Wow.
Yeah, and by comparison, imported furniture from China still faces an 8 to 12% tariff hit at the border.
A permanent zero tariff advantage fundamentally alters the profit margins for any business operating down there. But the second, perhaps even more critical factor, is sheer geographic proximity.
Oh, right. The shipping times.
The shipping time from the port of Da Nang in central Vietnam down to major Australian ports is incredibly fast, only 5 to 6 days on the water.
5 to 6 days. So if Australia is only 5 days away by boat, that essentially turns the entire country of Vietnam into their local warehouse.
Precisely. A U.S. retailer is forced to wait 30 to 35 days for a slow cargo ship to cross the massive expanse of the Pacific Ocean. An Australian retailer doesn't have to wait for anything.
Which means they can bypass the burden of heavy domestic warehousing almost entirely.
Exactly. If your resupply shipment is reliably only 5 days away, you do not need to stockpile months and months of backup inventory in outrageously expensive commercial real estate in Sydney or Melbourne.
You can just operate on an ultra-lean, highly responsive inventory model. You bring in exactly what you need, exactly when you need it.
The guide actually maps out a hypothetical scenario of an Australian entrepreneur to show the power of this.
I love this part.
An independent importer can take just $50,000 in working capital, build out an entire e-commerce catalog of 20 to 30 different premium furniture products, and because the shipping is so fast, they can turn that inventory over 6 to 8 times a single year.
That is incredible. That means a small team can build a $300,000 to $400,000 annual revenue business without ever owning a forklift or signing a massive warehouse lease.
All using only $50,000 of upfront cash. The return on capital is staggering compared to traditional retail models. It really democratizes the ability to start a major physical goods brand.
Think about the last time you bought a piece of furniture online. Maybe you were scrolling on your phone and you saw a really trendy, modern, modular chair for $149.
They had a little badge that said free 3-day shipping.
Exactly. You probably didn't think twice. You just hit buy. You didn't care about ASEAN free trade treaties. You didn't care about the robotic CNC precision machines cutting wood to the half millimeter in Vietnam.
And you certainly weren't thinking about ocean freight volume reductions or regional cross-docking fulfillment hubs in Georgia.
You just saw a fantastic deal on a cool chair and it showed up on your porch a few days later.
That invisible seamlessness is the ultimate hallmark of a successful structural shift in an industry. The immense complexity of the global supply chain, the geopolitics, the factory technology, it is all entirely hidden from the consumer.
All you experience is the direct benefit of lower prices and faster delivery. So, what does this all mean?
Good question.
If we look back at the mission we set at the start of this deep dive, it's clear that the global explosion of flat pack furniture is not just a passing trend of consumers developing cheaper tastes or accepting lower quality.
Far from it.
It is dominating the globe, Because it systematically solves the three biggest existential problems in retail today. It solves the crippling inflation of shipping costs through extreme density, finally putting an end to the absurdity of paying to ship empty air across the ocean.
Right.
It solves the nightmare of quality control and massive return rates through incredibly precise automated CNC manufacturing. And it solves the immense financial risk of retail forecasting by enabling a low-capital, highly agile dropshipping model.
It's brilliant.
This isn't just an incremental shift in how a dining chair is glued together. It is a massive structural transformation in how physical goods are manufactured, shipped, and sold around the entire world.
This raises an important question for you to ponder, something touched on briefly at the end of the guide regarding Generation Z's overwhelming preference for modularity.
Oh, this was fascinating.
Right. If younger generations actively prefer the modularity of ready-to-assemble furniture, the inherent ability to easily disassemble, rearrange, and repurpose individual components to fit new spaces, are we actually seeing the end of finished furniture?
That's a huge thought.
Perhaps the future of our homes isn't about buying a static, fully assembled dining set that is meant to look exactly the same for 50 years, but rather living with life-sized adult Legos that constantly evolve, expand, and adapt alongside us as our lives change and as we move from apartment to apartment.
Adult Legos. I
Uh,
love that analogy. And it really makes you think about what's actually inside the cardboard the next time a heavy package arrives at your front door.
it really does.
You aren't just opening a box of wooden furniture parts. You are opening a masterclass in global logistics, robotic precision engineering, and an entire industry's absolute refusal to pay to ship empty air. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
We hope you learned something fascinating today, and we encourage you to look just a little bit closer at the box the next time you order something online.